You are listening to Season 2 of The Diary of a Wannabe Writer, the short and often daily podcast in which I chronicle my life and attempt to be a writer by writing daily. Sometimes. Hello, today is Friday the 30th of May 2025 and you are listening to The Diary of a Wannabe Writer. Sorry I didn't do a podcast yesterday. I wasn't in the mood and couldn't think of anything to say. And I'd say my mental health isn't brilliant at the moment, so I got to the point where I couldn't face coming on and saying, no, I'm not going to do anymore. In fact, I strongly considered coming on today's podcast and saying, do you know what, I'm not getting any writing done. I don't really want to do a podcast every day that says why I haven't done writing, an excuse podcast as I call it. So I'm going to take a break. And then for some reason, out of the blue, I was in the mood to do some writing today. So I have actually managed at the last moment to get chapters 17 through 20 signed off in a Twitch stream that I've literally just finished it and I'm recording this podcast as part of that stream. So, I'm quite pleased with it actually. So there were a couple of little moments. Do you remember I talked about something that happened, something Marianne did. Oh God, see, I can't even say it again. Anyway, I removed the moment that I was mulling over. I think I did a podcast called Hand, where I discussed sort of what I decided to add to the book, and then like the next podcast was called No Hand because I decided to remove it. Well, I hadn't actually physically done the work of removing it from chapter 16 that moment, but I have now, so it's gone. And I proceeded to edit effectively what is the first 4 chapters of part 3 of the book, Skuld, today. And yeah, I'm pleased with them actually. So some quite important things happen. But I think I'm going to like the next chapters more because I really like the Mackenzie character. And he only appears briefly in the 4 chapters I've just edited, which kind of makes sense because he's no longer with the rest of my lead characters. He's not at Forest Lodge in Cumbria. He's back at home in Scotland. I don't know why I tried to do that accent there, but it's because when I do the live stream and I'm reading them out, I do make a terrible attempt to do the Scottish accents. But so out of the blue, I've been really productive today. And as I say, I was considering announcing a break. But actually, I've enjoyed what I've done today. And there's even a tiny chance I will start work on chapter 21 later today. Now, bearing in mind chapters 17, 18, 19 and 20, I had already read through on screen in detail. And when I edit, as I've said probably a lot of times before, so apologies if I'm repeating myself, it's a 2-stage process. So the first stage is me reading it on screen several times until I don't want to make any more changes, which I had done with chapters 17 to 20. And then the second stage is what I call my paper edit, where I print it out and go through it and I read it out loud, quite often on a Twitch stream, but not always. But I read it out loud, make sure I like it and make any changes. And the reality was there were no major changes that needed to be made to those 4 chapters today. So I read through them. I changed the odd word here and there. There were some minor things that I altered, but generally there wasn't anything I felt I needed to change. And so, yeah, so we're done. So let's have a quick look whilst I'm here at my documents. What's next? So I've got chapter 21 next, which is called Interludes. Let's have a quick look. We've been told that Danny has gone missing in the previous chapter. Thank you so much. Sorry, I'm just responding to Angel Faye, who's just put well done, messaged me to say well done, which obviously if you're just listening to the podcast, you won't be able to see. We see Danny in the next chapter. It's quite a long chapter, the next one. We meet a couple more new characters, some bad guys. And we meet, George and Annie's parent, George and Annie again. So yeah, the stuff I like, but the stuff I really like, there's a bit where Carruthers has to try and work out where Mackenzie is. And I really like that chapter because Carruthers as a character, I love him. Now he's not in his alcoholic phase. I really like writing for the character because he's very direct and a bit rude, but ultimately has a heart of gold. In my head, he's played by Peter Capaldi, who people will know. Well, he's been in loads of stuff. He's done that series on Sky recently, hasn't he? I think he's been in one of the DC movies. But of course, he will be largely remembered as the fabulous 12th Doctor Who. And also for people who like certain kinds of comedy, he'll remembered as the officious Malcolm Tucker from The Thick of It. And also, I think there was a movie based on The Thick of It, which he played that character as well. So, yeah, and I'll be honest with you, I've named Carl Tucker after Malcolm Tucker. That's a deliberate thing. My bad guy in this book is called Carl Tucker, and the Tucker definitely was a homage to the vile Malcolm Tucker from The Thick of It. So, yeah, very pleased with how today's gone. I'm going to Nairobi tomorrow. It's quite a long flight. Probably won't be at the hotel till about 8 or 9 o'clock, but I will try and do a podcast tomorrow because I may have done a bit more right. It would be nice to have read through chapter 19, even if it's not signed off. Sorry, chapter 21. Even if it's not signed off, it would be nice to have done the, some of the proofreading on screen. So that's me done for today, and so hopefully I'll do a podcast tomorrow. Hopefully I'll get back into the habit of doing it every day, not every other day like it has been fairly recently. So I'm going to talk very quickly about I can talk about my plan for June tomorrow. That'll give me something to talk about then, my June targets. So thank you for listening, and I'll be back at some point tomorrow, probably later in the day. Thank you, bye-bye. You have been listening to The Diary of a Wannabe Writer. For more information about what I'm writing, go to linktr.ee/Richard Writes, capital R, capital W, where you can find details of my website and social media. I may see you there.